What's the most important tool that I use as an entrepreneur and business owner? It's a pretty interesting question, right? And I've noticed that whenever I create content about tools and gear and tech, it tends to do really well. And I guess that makes sense, right? We all want to know about this kind of stuff, and we want to make sure that the tools we use are the best tools possible. But for me, the answer to the question, what is the most valuable tool that I use in my business, is probably not what you'd expect, because really this here is my most important tool. Or actually, I try to avoid working with paper. So more often than not, it's either this or in some cases this, which I'll get back to later. But the point is, none of this stuff actually matters, because the tool I'm talking about is writing. And whether I'm writing on a computer or on paper or whatever, writing is what makes all the difference. I use writing to clear my head. I use writing to solve problems. I use writing to come up with new ideas, to prioritize. And basically, I use writing as a way of deliberately and actively thinking, much more so than if I just was sitting somewhere only thinking. I've used writing as a tool for a long time, and I have literally thousands upon thousands of pages of notes that I've accumulated over the years. As you can imagine, deliberate and regular writing practice like this is not only useful as a business tool, it's also something that is useful as kind of a quality upgrade for your personal life. Now, Ryan, one of the new members of my team, actually pointed out to me that after he learned about my writing and note-taking techniques from the Focus and Action course, he implemented this and he saw some really profound effects in his own life.
Hey everyone, as Shane said, my name's Ryan and I'm an entrepreneur from Toronto working on Shane's team. And I really wanted to do this video because after doing Shane's Focus and Action course, this was the main thing that brought value to me. Taking long form notes, as in writing, but having an organized central place where you can put those notes after you've written them. Okay, so the first way is going to be tracking your habits. So it's no secret that habits are an extremely important part of who we are as people and entrepreneurs as well. Habit in Latin literally means garment. When I learned this, it kind of surprised me. But garment is in a piece of clothing that you wear. Obviously, this means that habits are part of who we are as people, and they literally build the person that we become. So one of the most important things in developing and managing your habits is actually tracking them. Having somewhere where you write down your current routines and your habits is very valuable to keeping you accountable. For me, you can see that in this doc that I have, I've outlined the current habits that I'm working on, as well as my daily and morning routine. Each day I can look at this to know exactly what I'm doing every day to better myself, and anytime something isn't working, I can just go here and make a change. Now, this may not seem that profound, but to me it actually was, because I found that I was keeping track of all this stuff in my head. Did I say I was going to meditate in the morning? Did that work well for me? Was I too tired? Did I say I was going to read in the afternoon? By having it all in front of me in one place, it took all of this stuff out of my head and put it onto paper, so I could just focus on what I was doing every day. But also on top of that, it gave me an opportunity to review these habits and take notes on what was working and not working.
When it comes to building habits, we'd love to imagine that the way it works is we decide to take on a new habit and then we do it from then on forever. Unfortunately, in reality, it's often that we decide to take on a new habit and then things go wrong. And in my experience, you usually have to tweak things before a habit will start working. So maybe you have to change something about the timing, change something about how you remind yourself to do the habit, change something about your environment. You have to kind of fiddle with the settings before it actually becomes a solid habit. And writing is a great way to make that happen, because you can really bring it to your attention. Okay, did this work? Why didn't it work? You can process that. You can make a decision about what will I try next, and you kind of have a record of how you built up a habit and what went wrong on the way. And over time, that makes you a better habit builder.
So the second way that you can use long-form note-taking is for reading books and information, and I'll explain why. I feel like, and you might as well, that in today's day and age, we're constantly being bombarded with all these conflicting ideas and information. Someone says you need to sleep 8 hours a day, while someone else says sleep is for the weak. And then you have Gary Vee saying to respond to comments all day and constantly be on social media, while somebody else says that you should stay off social media if you're an entrepreneur. Having a central place where you can write down notes from any books, ideas, and information that you learn can be a great way to congregate and compare these conflicting thoughts to come to your own conclusions. So in the Focus and Action course, Shane says that one of the topics for long form notes is on book notes. A lot of us might take notes on books, but having them all in one place along with your other educational work or ideas that you may have or get from videos can be very good to compare and contrast information. So say you're reading 2 books on spirituality and meditation. One, say, by Deepak Chopra. Maybe the other one is from, I don't know, another spiritual like Wayne Dyer or someone like that. What you can do is you can take notes on both of these books side by side. And then when you come to conclusions about what you've learned, you can take things that you agree with from both books and come to your own conclusions.
This is something I can relate to a lot. I find that most of the learning I do from books seems to happen in between the books in a way. So usually when I get interested in a topic, I'll read more than one book on that topic. And I learn a lot from each individual book, and I learn more by taking notes. But what I often find is that over the course of a few weeks or a few months reading several books on one topic, new ideas emerge that are clearly made from components and ideas that come from different books, and somehow they combine into something new. And again, the writing process is what helps me really bring that to the forefront and really process these ideas, and also be able to take action on ideas that go beyond the specific advice I might have found in one book or another.
Taking notes on problems and situations in your life can be a great way to deal with your thoughts and emotions. So I'm going to give you a story from my personal life. Now, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a young entrepreneur, and my partner was quite a bit older than me. And we had a bit of a rocky patch, you could say, in our partnership where I made a few mistakes. Happens to the best of us, right? Essentially what taking long form notes allowed me to do, and I learned this from Shane, was to first of all really get the ideas, emotions, and thoughts out of my head and onto the page, which is something that can really help us deal with issues and problems in our life. But the second thing that it did was it allowed me to reference back to those notes at a later date. In that way, what I could do is I could see how things were progressing in my own mind and in my relationship with my business partner. Now, this doesn't stop there, obviously. You can use this for issues that are going on in your personal life, your relationships, your work life, and it's really great to have a central place where you can write about these things. Just having a dedicated place where you can take notes on these things will encourage you to do it more and more and help you to deal with these issues that arise in your life.
This area is where writing most feels like really a tool that I use to solve a problem. Because for me, whenever I'm stressed or overwhelmed or facing a problem or a challenge that I don't know the solution to, my go-to tool to use is writing. Usually within just 1 or 2 writing sessions of just really thinking a problem through in writing, I can come to a much better conclusion or solution than I could have without writing. So as you can see, writing can really be thought of as a tool to help you solve problems and gain clarity about challenges and things in your business as well as in your life overall. If you don't already have a writing or journaling practice, I highly recommend that you take one up. And again, as I said in the beginning, it really doesn't matter what tools you use for that. You can sit down and write with pen and paper. You can use any kind of note-taking application like Evernote or Notion or Google Docs or whatever you prefer. As long as you build a habit of writing, that will be really useful. And as Ryan shared with you, if you want to build a habit of writing, well, using writing to do so is a good way to build that habit and solidify that habit. Now, speaking of tools, I showed this earlier on. This is an e-ink note-taking and reading device. It's called the Onyx Books Note. And this is kind of a good compromise. It can be used like paper, but you don't have piles of paper lying around. So this is an e-ink screen, just like you would have on, for example, a Kindle reader. And that's the main reason I got this. I like to be able to do reading and writing without looking at a screen that with backlight, so that I'm just constantly having these lit screens shine at my face. That is generally not great for the eyes, and it's also not great if you do it in the evening. It can interfere with your sleep. But because I don't want to have tons of paper books or tons of paper notes to write on, this is kind of the good compromise. This gives me a screen that kind of looks and feels like paper, but I can still store things digitally, and I can have, thousands of books on this one device. So, if that's kind of something you've been struggling with, if you also like to read, like to write, but don't want to have your house full of paper, consider one of these. I hope this video encourages you to take on a writing practice of your own. And if you want to know more details about specific writing techniques and writing practices I use, you can learn more about them in my course, Focus and Action. And I'll link to that below as well.